Hello and welcome to this astrological forecast for the sign of Pisces for the year of 2025. I strongly recommend watching the video for your rising sign for the greatest accuracy, but you may also use these videos for your sun and or moon signs if you so desire. The first item I will call your attention to for 2025 is the fact that Pluto is now in Aquarius in your 12th house to stay for almost another 2 decades, deeply transforming your experience of loss, isolation, or your ability to transcend suffering. Pluto has been back and forth between Capricorn and Aquarius since March of 2023, but that transition period is now over, with 2025 being the first full year of Pluto in Aquarius. With Pluto transiting your 12th house, an area of activity where we often see the overcoming of suffering through spirituality, you will go deep into the realm of spiritual transcendence in the years to come. Remember that this is a long, drawn-out process lasting almost another 20 years. In general, Pluto in Aquarius will transform everyone's relationship with technology, the collective, and the future. For you, Pisces, Pluto's time in Aquarius will have a lasting impact on your beliefs, knowledge, or what is foreign to you. On February 23rd, Mars stations direct in Cancer in your 5th house of fun. This is part of an ongoing story that first began in September or October of 2024 and does not conclude until May or June of 2025, involving increased effort and energy output in your fun or leisurely activities as well as your work or health and how these areas are connected. It may involve a satisfying blend of work with fun while still requiring great effort. With Mars being opposite Pluto for so much of its retrograde, including both its pre-retrograde and post-retrograde shadow periods, your actions or motivations in your work, health, or fun will be continually challenged to transform. Thus, although Mars' direct station on February 23rd is significant, it is still only a turning point in a larger story. While perhaps difficult, this is not something you should run from. Instead, utilize your Piscean skills of intuition, psychic perception, and ability to see the big picture to surrender and go with the flow of what is required of you at this time. Focus on the positive aspects of the situation, and then channel your enthusiasm and use it as leverage for energy. In addition to your money or values, this transit will have a lasting impact on your beliefs or spirituality. On March 1st, Venus stations retrograde in Aries in your 2nd house of money. This too is part of an ongoing story, but one that does not begin until January of 2025 and does not end until May of 2025, involving the reflecting on and reconsideration of relationships when it comes to your money or values in connection with who you are. With Venus being in your sign of Pisces from January 2nd through February 4th, and then again when it retrogrades back into it from March 27th through April 30th, you may begin to take on the traits of Venus throughout this time, becoming more sociable, pleasure-seeking, beautiful, and overall more optimistic even in the face of challenges. You may also receive significant blessings and good fortune at this time, and your presence will be uplifting to others. The exact Venus retrograde itself lasts from March 1st through April 12th, during which time the effects of it will be at their most intense. Past relationships can also occasionally resurface at this time. For further clarification, consider this. Venus has an 8-year synodic cycle, meaning it retrogrades through almost the exact same part of the zodiac every 8 years, and thus you can look back in your life to what happened in March and April of 2017 and know that those themes will tend to repeat in some way this year during this Venus retrograde. Venus retrogrades occur every year and a half, and they often function as significant stress tests on existing relationships. It is a time of reevaluating your relationships as well as what it is that you truly want. In addition to your communication or travel, this transit will have a lasting impact on your shared resources, business, or issues of life and death. The March Madness continues when on March 14th, the lunar eclipse takes place in Virgo in your 7th house of relationships, indicating fateful developments in your major relationships. In fact, all of March is our first eclipse season this year, a time when great changes beyond our control take place. With the lunar nodes recently having shifted to the Virgo-Pisces axis and thus your 7th and 1st house axis, fateful changes are also now occurring having to do with you personally, your character, or even your physical body. Although to be precise, there was just barely a lunar eclipse in your sign of Pisces on September 17th, 2024, and so you may have already seen a preview of this theme around that time. The previous eclipse theme having to do with your money or values finishes up for you in March, with the following solar eclipse on March 29th taking place in Aries in your 2nd house, wrapping up major financial changes that began for you about 2 years ago. From here on out for about the next 2 years, however, eclipses will be triggering fateful developments having to do with your relationships and the theme of self versus other. And since the hungry North node is now in your sign of Pisces in your 1st house of self, while the releasing South node is in Virgo in your 7th house of relationships, you will also likely experience an increased focus on yourself and meeting your needs while letting go of what needs to be let go of in your relationships. On June 9th, Jupiter ingresses into Cancer in your 5th house of fun, bringing growth, expansion, and good fortune to your fun, love, creative self-expression, or leisurely activities for the rest of the year, especially if you were born during the daytime. You may notice in the chart on screen, however, that as Jupiter makes this ingress, it is also square to Saturn in Aries in your 2nd house, suggesting that the growth or good fortune in your fun creates ongoing stress with limitations in your money. For example, spending more time engaged in costly, pleasurable pursuits may push your financial limits. Again, this is just an example, and I wouldn't worry too much about it since overall this is a very positive transit with Jupiter's exaltation in Cancer giving it great resources and wherewithal to handle the stress from Saturn. Your best strategy is to allow the growth or good fortune in your fun or leisurely activities to take place while keeping a watchful eye on your finances. In addition to you personally, this transit will have a lasting impact on your reputation, friends, or ability to transcend suffering. On July 13th, Saturn stations retrograde conjunct Neptune in Aries in your 2nd house of money. This is a big deal. The ingress of slow-moving Saturn and even slower-moving Neptune into Aries this year is one of the key indicators that 2025 is a year of great change, unlike anything we have seen for many years prior. It is, however, still only a preview of things to come, with both Saturn and Neptune retrograding back into your sign of Pisces by the end of the year and not being in Aries to stay until 2026. Specifically, Neptune will be in Aries from March 30th through October 22nd, during which time you will experience increased faith or idealism in your money or values, though this will be tempered somewhat by the realism of Saturn when it too enters Aries on May 24th and remains there until September 1st, during which time you will need to exercise greater control and discipline in how you spend your money. When Saturn conjoins Neptune, confusing financial realities may manifest, and it will be through acceptance of them that you find peace within them. Saturn will be within a 1-degree orb of Neptune from June 9th through August 4th, during which time the effects of the transit will be at their most intense. In addition to you personally, this transit will have a lasting impact on your friends or ability to transcend suffering. On September 6th, Uranus stations retrograde in Gemini, trine Pluto in Aquarius. As with Saturn and Neptune, Uranus ingress into Gemini this year is another major indicator of 2025 being a year of great change. But also like Saturn and Neptune, it is still only a preview of things to come, with Uranus retrograding back into Taurus by the end of the year and not being in Gemini to stay until 2026. Specifically, Uranus will be in Gemini in your 4th house from July 7th through November 7th, during which time you will experience the shaking up of your home, family, or living situation. When Uranus trines Pluto, sudden liberation of repressed fear or desire takes place in your home in connection with your experience of loss or suffering that ends up affecting your beliefs. Remember, however, that this is only a preview of things to come for the next 7 years. Uranus will be within a 1-degree orb of Pluto from August 11th through October 28th, during which time the effects of the transit will be at their most intense. Due to the sudden nature of Uranus, however, I would pay particular attention to September 5th, 6th, and 7th, the days immediately before, during, and after Uranus exact retrograde station. Speaking of September 7th, that is also the day of a lunar eclipse in your sign of Pisces in your 1st house of self, indicating fateful developments having to do with you personally, your character, or even your physical body. It also kicks off the main part of our 2nd eclipse season this year, which technically begins on August 23rd and ends on September 28th. Again, this is a time when great and powerful changes beyond our control can and do occur. The following solar eclipse on September 21st takes place in Virgo in your 7th house of relationships, suggesting inevitable changes in your major relationships. Again, with the eclipses now taking place in your 1st and 7th house axis, fateful changes within you personally are tied to fateful changes in your relationships. Keep in mind that events signified by eclipses can take place on the exact date of an eclipse, between eclipses, or even between entire eclipse seasons. Eclipses are erratic and often unpredictable in this way. On November 4th, Mars in Sagittarius opposes Uranus in Gemini. While this is not as long-lasting of an event as what I would typically include in a yearly context, its effects are so potent that it may very well end up defining the entire final quarter of the year, and thus I decided it needed to be included. With Mars in your 10th house opposite Uranus in your 4th house, strong motivation in your career or reputation challenges your urge for liberation in your home. For example, advancement in your career may require that you relocate to a new home. Again, this is just an example, and regardless of how it plays out for you, it will have a lasting impact on your money, beliefs, or ability to transcend suffering. Additionally, you will be rethinking your motivations when it comes to your home or living situation for all of November and into December. More generally, when angry Mars opposes unpredictable Uranus, sudden fighting and rebellion can take place, and we will all see this manifest on an individual and collective level on or around November 4th. Remember in this context that anger does not mean you are doing anything wrong. It is simply an indicator of the need for a boundary. 2025 is a year of great change, and I am not just saying that. Astrologers like myself have had their eye on this year for at least half a decade now due to its powerful indicators of great change. It is not common at all that in one year we have Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune all changing signs, with Pluto just having changed signs not long before the year began. For you, Pisces, deep changes and transformations in your experience of loss or transcendence of suffering have already begun with Pluto now in Aquarius. You experience increased effort and energy output in your work and fun in the first half of the year with retrograde Mars stationing direct in Cancer. You reflect in your relationships when it comes to your money or values in March and April when Venus is retrograde. Eclipses shake things up in your relationships as well as within you personally in March and September when they activate your 1st and 7th house axis. Growth and good fortune come to your fun, love, or leisurely activities from June onward when Jupiter ingresses into Cancer. Confusing financial realities surface this summer when Saturn conjoins Neptune in Aries. Sudden liberation of repressed fear or desire takes place in your home in early September when Uranus trines Pluto. Finally, your urge for liberation in your home or living situation can be held back no longer when Mars opposes Uranus in early November. So I hope you have listened closely to all that I have here said, for 2025 is a year we will never, ever forget.